r/AskReddit. What was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? The code to open all the doors in my primary school at the time. A lot of power to open any locked door for an 8-year-old. My third job I had, at 17, was at a pizza place. I had 2 managers, one male, one female, and they were both married to other people. Well, I went to hand in my drawer at the end of one shift, and walked into the office and there they were just making out with some heavy petting. Their spouses found out. They left their families, and then those 2 managers got married to each other. As far as I know, they're still together. Won a used laptop from my female friend in a bed. She had a bunch of nudes on it. This was no accident. Hard drive failed on my dad's computer. The data recovery software did a pretty good job really, but I could have done without it recovering nude and lingerie shots of the various women he's been banging behind my mother's back over the years. While my concern is more with things like financial details etc. rather than secret cheating photos, this is basically the answer to my friend's question as to why I dismantled my HDD and smashed the plate to dust before burning it. Dude robbed a gas station. I was riding my bike in the back, saw him take off his mask and get in a car. We made eye contact. I turned my head and acted like I didn't see anything. When I was in my late teens I was sitting with a friend in his car at a set of traffic lights about 3 AM on a quiet street in the city. At the next set of lights ahead, which was maybe 30 meters away, I saw a guy walk up to the car waiting for the lights to change. He extended his arm and fired a shot almost point blank range at the passenger window before quickly walking off. We sat there in shock for a minute thinking, did we just ducking see what we thought we saw, while the car sat there through 2 more light changes before slowly rolling away. No other cars were on the street at the time. The next day I saw on the news some dude from a gang called the Assyrian Kings was shot in the head in a car and died right around where we were the night before. We never said shit about it to anyone as we decided we didn't want to get involved, being paranoid teenagers. I don't know if I wasn't supposed to see this, as I can't figure out any reasoning behind this beyond maybe exhibitionism, though really I don't want to put exhibitionists in the same group as this couple because goodness gracious. I had a patient who was close to death and we called her daughter. She came and we set her up in the room to stay until her mother passed. She brought her boyfriend, which is not abnormal. I walked in to do my routine check and they were having X on the cot that was set up for her maybe 15 feet from her dying mother. I mostly didn't want to see, so I'm answering this wrong. WTF, that's just wrong. When I was a young teen I was once leaving my house to go do something in the neighborhood. As soon as I got out of the door I heard my parents at the garage. My mother seemed to be in her car, and my father was sitting down behind her car and pleading with her not to leave. My parents were divorcing, and I saw a few scenes that I wish I never had. Not really horrific, but seeing your parents in emotional pain can be rough. That's rough. That reminds me of me walking out into the hallway and seeing my dad hit my mom for the first time when I was like 10. I couldn't sleep, and I've always been a mama's boy, and heard her crying. She was on the floor and my dad had a most evil glare in his eye. I just ran back to my room scared and cried for my mom. I saw my mom giving my dad a blowjob, but it was on a video on his phone. I came home from working my second job to my now ex-wife having X with some guy in our house. Did this except I stopped home on a break and had to go back to work almost immediately. This is what I did. I came in the front door and caught a peek of my mate nailing my girl. I left early to surprise her with Chinese food. OBV, I broke up with her, but nothing will erase that memory. The salaries of everyone working at the company I was working at, it was a smaller, startup digital ad agency with about 60 employees total, and someone from HR was making copies of a document that listed everyone's salary and left the original on the glass of the copier. I found it and turned it back in, but not before I went through that list to see what everyone else made and discovered that a couple new hires working the same position as me were making more than me. So after turning it in, I met with my manager and used my newfound knowledge to my advantage to successfully negotiate for a raise, along with a tacit promise that I wouldn't divulge what I knew to anyone else in the company. I most definitely was not supposed to see my sister's abortion paperwork 20 years after, in a box in her old closet at the family home. Her business, I'll never ask her about it. The owner of the club, where my sister worked, took an armload of shotguns out of his truck. It was about 3 AM, and I was parked behind the bar waiting for her. The reason I know he didn't mean anyone to see is because he covered them with a tarp, and he gave a good long stare around when he got out. Shady ducker, he was up to every kind of no good. I literally scrunched down in my seat. That's terrifying. A woman using a sink as a bidet. A woman using a sink as a bidet. A woman. A guy taking a sheet under a bridge. What really freaked me out is that he probably walked around the rest of the day smelling vaguely of sheet. I still think about it sometimes. My sister's nudes. Came across an old USB thumb drive and found screenshots of my sister nude video chatting. The pictures were dated around the time she was 15. Update with the deets. The thumb drive was in a pile of electronics we had stashed in a closet after we moved houses a couple years back. The pictures were screens of her video chatting with her then boyfriend, and I remember seeing thumbnails mostly of her naked boyfriend with mostly screens of her feet on the upper right. Dunno if the guy was requesting feet stuff or if it was my sister's weird sense of humor, but if anything the pics were more of the guy than of her. I discreetly set the thumb drive amongst her things as to not allow anyone else to stumble into it like I did. God forbid our sweet old parents open that drive. My elder sister and her BF ducking. That's how I got my tickets to see Endgame. Did you enjoy seeing that? I mean, Endgame. Quite the climax. Sexually explicit messages on my fiance's phone to another man. And they are still your fiancé. Happened when I was 7. I found the Tom and Jerry DVD I had lost in the back of a drawer. In celebration, I decided to watch it again. By the time my mother walked into the living room and saw me watching a threesome, I was already scarred for life. She took away the entire DVD collection. My brother accidentally once sent me a dick pic that was, I assume, supposed to go to one of his girlfriends. We've never spoken about it, and I'm fortunate enough to have aphantasia, so I can't form mental images. The 0.3 seconds it took for me to delete it off my phone also deleted it from my brain. My camp counselor's penis. Lock the bathroom door, buddy. My mom gave me an old laptop of hers when I was about 13. And I was scrolling through random pics she had left on it of my little brother's football games and then boom, nudes of my mother. I was 14 and on a walk with my mom. We were walking around a lake and decided to take a woodsy shortcut rather than having to walk out onto a state roads. The shortcut, like I said, is woodsy, but there's still some lake cabins and a dirt road back there. Anyways, we are going through on the dirt road and there is a car parked in the middle of it, not particularly close to any of the cabins. As we pass it by, we glance in the windows out of curiosity and see a 20-something girl and guy ducking in the back seat. When my mom realizes this, she quickly pushes me on ahead, which bummed me because I wanted to be a dick and tap on the window and wave hello with a big grin. Back in the day, I would try to download anime episodes and clips off of P2P services. This was either days of Kazaa, before people widely recognized that P2P programs were hives of illegal porn, and I'm one of the kids who was introduced to all sorts of disturbing stuff this way. The worst, though, was a small clip of a crying girl, late teens, 20 at the most. It was only about 10 seconds long, but at about the 6-second mark, about the time I was sighing and saying ugh, of course this isn't Goku, someone shot her in the head. I hadn't even noticed the gun at her temple until her skull was shred to pieces. Every once in a while, I remember that, and it makes me wonder who she was, who mourned her, and what sort of sick person films that. Edit. Lots of folks are saying the video might have been a fake, even a well-known one. I sure hope so. 10-year-old me didn't know that, of course. It didn't mess with me too badly, but I never got the thought of how blood in the movies is never quite a dark enough red out of my mind. We had this yearly festival at my school when I was in middle school. I was at one of the game tents with my friends and I saw a teen worker not so subtly hand another teen worker a bag of white powder. It happened pretty fast and no one else saw it, so I was kind of confused if I saw what I thought I saw. My friend told me the following Monday that our teacher caught the kids doing drugs after the festival. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe and be kind to your friends and family. Otherwise this happy lamb will be very sad, maybe even shed a few tears. See you next time.